In the immediate aftermath of World War II, in 1945, somewhere in an isolated manor on the Channel Islands, New Jersey, a stern, anal, retentive woman named Grace awakens from a nightmare and prepares for her day. The morning begins with her welcoming 3 visitors who arrive at her door. But before the older woman explains their purpose, Grace takes them inside without a second thought. She treats them as her servants and orders them to introduce themselves. The elders are Mrs. Mills and Mr. Tuttle, and the young lady is named Lydia, though she is mute. Grace recently placed an advertisement seeking new servants and immediately assumes the 3 are applicants, so she begins showing them around. During the tour, she mentions her relief that the previous servant had vanished just the week before without notice and hadn't even collected their wages. However, when the workers enter the kitchen, she locks the door and then takes them to the music room, locking that door as well. She reveals the house's key rules. First, no door must be opened without the previous one being closed first. Second, she insists on silence while they work because she suffers from migraines. She also informs them that the house has no electricity because during the war, the Germans kept cutting it off, and they've learned to live without it. Grace decides to introduce her children to them, but first instructs them to close all the curtains. This is where the third rule comes into play. Her children, Anna and Nicholas, are medically sensitive to sunlight. More exposure to light causes their skin to blister in minutes, so the area must remain dark whenever the children enter. Afterward, the servants begin their duties. Mrs. Mills prepares breakfast for the children, during which she talks about how their mother has gone mad since their father Charles left for the war but never returned. Grace overhears this and pulls Mrs. Mills aside to tell her to ignore whatever her children say. To add, she also realizes that the letter she wrote to the newspaper about looking for new servants was never picked up by the mailman. So she questions how Mrs. Mills found out about the job opening. The new servant quickly explains that she just happened to stop by looking for work, having previously worked for the former owners of the house. Grace then warns about her children's strange and fantastical ideas, something she doesn't believe in because she prefers staying grounded. Later, the mother gets her children to do Bible study, teaching them that one should live a good life, or else they would go to hell. She then tells them to study separately so they can concentrate and escorts Anna into another room. While the children study, she waits in the living room until she's interrupted by the sound of a child crying. Panicked, she rushes to check on Nicholas, only to find that he's just relaxing. As the cries continue, she assumes it's Anna and rushes to check on her, but she too is not crying. However, unlike Nicholas, Anna claims she heard the cries as well. Earlier, she met a crying boy named Victor, who had just left the room. According to Anna, he was crying because he didn't like the house and wanted them to leave. She also mentions Victor's father and the others who have been viewing the house. Grace thinks the story is absurd, questioning how anyone could get in and out with the door locked. But then she is shocked to see that the door directly across from her is open. Furious, she calls the servants and scolds them, but the servants swear they haven't even been inside the house. At night, while the children are sleeping, Anna wakes Nicholas and he panics because the curtain is open. But his sister tells him she didn't do it. Victor did it. This frightens Nicholas, so he curls back up in his bed while Anna closes the curtain again. After a tense argument, a boy tells the children to get off his bed, causing Nicholas to panic. He asks Victor to touch his cheek to confirm that Victor is real. Hearing Nicholas's scream, Grace rushes to their room, finding him terrified. Nicholas blames Anna, saying, "It's you. I didn't do anything." Grace punishes Anna by making her stand and read in the hall, scolding her for scaring her brother. Anna insists she isn't making it up, but Grace, frustrated with Anna's ghost stories, forces her to read the Bible until she apologizes. 3 days later, Anna refuses to apologize, claiming she cannot apologize for something she didn't do. Meanwhile, Grace, trying to embroider in silence, hears a loud noise upstairs. She calls for Lydia to be quiet, but when she looks outside, she realizes Lydia and Mrs. Mills are outside in the yard. Puzzled, Grace investigates and discovers whispers in the junk room. But when she moves the furniture, she sees no one. Suddenly, the door swings open, and Grace rushes to catch up with the intruders, but finds no trace of them. She claims that several people are roaming the house, stating that it belongs to them. Later, the daughter shows Grace a drawing she made of the house's residents: a father, mother, a little boy, and a frightening old woman who would ask Anna to come with her. Grace now believes there are intruders in the house. Armed with a rifle, she orders her servants to open the curtains and search the house. But when the search comes up empty, Grace sits in the junk room alone. There she finds an old family photograph and post-mortem pictures. Grace asks Mrs. Mills about the photos, and she explains that post-mortem photography was common in the past. Grace finds this morbid and asks her to get rid of the pictures. That night, Grace embraces Anna and apologizes for being too hard on her. Nicholas, still awake, asks when their father will return, triggering Grace's grief for her husband, Charles, likely dead. She spends the night crying, but suddenly hears the sound of a piano playing downstairs. Armed, she investigates, but the sound stops as she enters. Paranoid, she locks the piano and leaves, but the door slams shut, locking her out. Panicking, Grace calls for Mrs. Mills. When Grace opens the door, she is shocked to find the piano lid open again. Mrs. Mills tries to calm her down, explaining that sometimes the world of the dead merges with the world of the living. This unsettles Grace, who begins to accept the possibility of ghosts in the house. She heads to find the local priest, but Mrs. Mills tries to stop her. On her way, Grace tells Mr. Tuttle, the gardener, to search for gravestones on the property. Mrs. Mills ominously replies that the fog will prevent Grace from going far. As Grace leaves, Tuttle asks if it's safe to let her go, and Mrs. Mills instructs him to cover the gravestone completely. The fog thickens, preventing Grace from passing through. Suddenly, a figure emerges. Her long-lost husband, Charles. They embrace lovingly, making Grace forget her mission to find the priest. She brings Charles home, which shocks Mrs. Mills. Charles holds his children but retreats to the bedroom, clearly unwell. Grace, no longer wanting to acknowledge the ghosts, scolds Anna again for believing in them. Anna runs out crying, but Mrs. Mills reassures her that she has seen the intruders and hints that big changes are coming. Grace begins to believe the intruders have left the house, but Mrs. Mills and others worry that Grace will be the hardest to convince. The next day, Grace finds Anna playing with the veil she's been sewing. To her shock, Anna's hands and face have aged. Grace becomes violent, thrashing the veil. Mrs. Mills arrives and takes Anna away. Later, Grace becomes suspicious of Mrs. Mills, and when she leaves, throws her migraine pills in the sink. In the bedroom, Charles confronts Grace about an incident where she became violent with the children. Grace swears her love for them, but Charles announces he's leaving for the front lines. He kisses her to calm her down but disappears the next morning. Grieving, Grace searches for him at the gate, but he is gone. Meanwhile, the children wake up in the daylight, and when they realize it, Anna screams loudly. Hearing her voice, Grace rushes to save them, only to find that all the curtains are missing. Panicked, she shields her children with a coat and takes them to the only dark room left in the house. She then questions the servants, but they seem strangely calm about the situation, and suggests that perhaps the children have outgrown their photosensitivity. Grace is now beyond livid. She decides to take a gun, but when Mrs. Mills and the others suddenly arrive, Grace becomes even more frightened. She points the gun at the three servants to stop whatever plans they might have. Grace then takes the keys to the rooms from them and fires at the three servants when they try to calm her down. As they walk out, Mrs. Mills tells the two that it's time to uncover the gravestones. Meanwhile, Grace spends the day tearing the house apart, looking for the curtains, but she can't seem to find them. That night, Anna again tries to tell Nicholas that their mom has gone mad and violent like she did that fateful day, but Nicholas still refuses to believe it. Bored, Anna decides to jump out of the window, saying that she wants to look for their father. Nicholas, afraid of being left alone, joins her. Together, the two children wander through the dark until they stumble upon 3 gravestones. At the same time, Grace is still searching for the curtains and finally digs through the servants' quarters. Finally, the shocking truth is revealed. To Grace's horror, she finds a post-mortem picture of Mrs. Mills, Mr. Tuttle, and Lydia. Simultaneously, Anna discovers that the gravestones belong to the 3 servants, revealing that their ghosts have been there all along. Just in time, the servants appear and start walking toward Anna and Nicholas. Terrified, the siblings run for their lives and finally meet Grace. The mother tells them to rush inside the house while trying to shoot the servants, but it's to no avail. Mills tells Grace that the 3 were killed by tuberculosis more than half a century ago. Hearing this, Grace retreats inside the house and locks the door. As the 3 servants approach, she orders the dead to go away before telling the children to go upstairs and hide. Mrs. Mills informs her of the new situation, that they must learn to live with the living and the dead. But Grace refuses to listen, telling them that if they are dead, they should leave her and her family to live in peace. The servants tell her that even if they leave, there are still the intruders in the house. Tuttle informs her that the intruders also took down the curtains. Meanwhile, the children are hiding in the wardrobe, when suddenly an old lady opens it, causing the children to scream. Mrs. Mills tells Grace that the intruders have found the children and that she now has to speak to them upstairs. Although frightened, Grace heads upstairs to check on Anna and Nicholas. It is here that she finds all the intruders and her children. The old woman asks, "And what happened here before?" But Nicholas warns Anna not to answer. The blind old woman is somewhat writing on a piece of paper while two men appear to analyze the interaction, and a husband and wife watch. The old woman asks again what their mother did to them, and it's then that Anna mentions something about the pillow. "Is that how she killed you?" The children and Grace are shocked to hear this. The old woman then asks why they remain in the house if they are dead, which causes them to panic and insist that they're not dead. Grace loses her composure and creates a commotion to try to convince them, at which point the perspective shifts to reveal that the group is performing a seance, proving to us who the real ghosts in the house are. The people around the table, consisting of paranormal mediums and the actual owners of the house, begin to discuss what just happened. The wife argues that she's had enough of this haunting, and that they should move out of the house, bringing up the history of the previous owners. Apparently, the previous owner went mad, then strangled and shot her own children. The wife also mentions that their son, Victor, has been having nightmares and seeing sightings of a little girl around the house. Hearing this, the husband relents and promises that they will move out first thing in the morning. Just outside the room, Grace now realizes that she has been dead the entire time. She remembers how she killed her children before taking her own life out of guilt. Grace eventually accepts that she is a ghost, and Mrs. Mills walks in, welcoming her and informing her that, for now, the intruders are leaving. However, in the future, others will come, and they must learn to coexist harmoniously. Now that they've all accepted their ghostly existence, the children step out into the sunlight for the first time and discover that it no longer hurts them. Finally, Grace and her children watch as the intruders pack their bags and put the property up for sale. And I will sell you another movie recap for free, my friend. Just click on the recommendations on the right next to continue your binge. Subscribe for future uploads, and as always, grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.